Bhagavat Sravana ki Gaur Premanande.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to the Bhakti Center Bhagavat Sravana program leading into the Boat Festival today. I'm going to round of applause for Ari and his merry band of Kirtaniyas. Yes, Bhagavat Sravana happens every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock, Kirtan till 11:30, then we go into a class. Today is a little special because we're going to have the Boat Festival on the roof immediately following Arti, he says, questioningly? Yes.
12:45.
Yes, at 12:45 there'll be a quick Arti, and then we'll go head up on the roof for the Boat Festival in honor of Shri Radha Murlidhar. Our speaker today is Jai Nitai Prabhu. Very often he and his wife Baba Bhakti Devi give classes together. Today's going to be just Jai Nitai. I want to just pause momentarily. If anyone wants to leave now knowing that, you may do that.
Please.
Okay, just a few people in the back. Okay, very good. We're always in for a treat when Jai Nitai speaks. Jai Nitai, of course, was president of the ISKCON Soho Temple in London for I think it was about 67 years, which is interesting because it predates the formation of ISKCON. So that's his potency. He was temple president there for over a dozen years, and he and his wife come to New York to lend their considerable talents to the New York Yatra. In many ways, Jai Nitai has become one of the faces of Bhakti Center. He's been doing so much here for the community, for the temple, for the deities. Also around the corner, 26 2nd Avenue, is extremely active and very valuable in whatever he attempts to do. He does well and with gusto. So we're very pleased to have him. Please join me in welcoming Jai Nitai. Gusto, please. Hare Krishna. Can you hear me okay?
So I always wish that Yadunath Prabhu would read the actual resume that I sent him to read, which is actually true and he knows it, but he never reads that out. So anyway, thank you very much, Yadunath Prabhu, for also stepping in last minute to be the MC. Whenever Yadunath Prabhu is the MC, we're always sure that there's going to be a good laugh, a good time, and an excellent person, professional person who knows how to work with all of the devotees who gather, because he's himself such a special soul. So we'd like to thank Yadunath Prabhu. Haribol! He's also been here for about 67 years.
How did you turn that around? That's amazing.
Okay, so nice to have everyone here. Thank you very much for coming. And yes, today is a very, very special day. We're having the Boat Festival for Radha Murlidhar, the Chota Radha Krishna deities. Last year was the first Boat Festival. One of our wonderful devotees, Bhakta Bruce, he very kindly carved, of course you know Bhakta Bruce. He's been doing some things over 26 2nd Avenue, but he carved out the boat, and I think it was meant to be used the year before, but it didn't seem to happen. So last year we were able to manifest the boat Leela, and this year also. Last year I think it was in November, if I'm not mistaken, or late October. So we moved it about a month earlier. We will hit summer at one point for the boat pastime, like that, so maybe next year. So yeah, that will happen at about 12:45. In the meantime, I was asked to speak something on some pastimes from boat Leela, Nauka Leela. So before I begin, I would like to seek the blessings of all the assembled Vaishnavas, and also to recognize that in our presence we have two wonderful esteemed sadhus who have crossed the material ocean by the mercy of the spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada. So two wonderful Prabhupada disciples who are here with us, Ramana Dev Prabhu and Adi Dev Prabhu. they're both here with us. They've done immense service over the years in ISKCON and also immense service on the Matchless Gifts Project and bringing it to what Radhanath Maharaj called the dream come true. For him, I think he said it was like 15 years he's been dreaming of it manifesting in this way, and now finally it is manifested by their auspice and their mercy and endeavors and tolerance of me and with the pleasure of all the other Vaishnavas. So like that, so we're very happy that you're both here. And so I didn't realize we were going to be here, but if either of you would like to speak, or if both of you would like to speak, then you're most welcome.
We want to hear you.
You want to hear me? Okay. Both passed out. Dr. David, brother passed out. Okay. So before we begin, I will just chant the Mangalacharana prayers, and you can join in if you know these prayers. Om Bhaganatimilandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshuro Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttara Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvetam Savadutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hare Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalparuyascha Kripa Sindhu Yevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. So every time when I was chanting that, every time I would hear Deva, I would think of the Deva brothers in that mantra. And then also we said Karuna Sindhu. And Karuna Sindhu means ocean of mercy. So the Lord is compared to an ocean of mercy, and we're discussing both feelings. So just wanted to share a little something at the beginning about this picture here. So some years ago, goodness, must have been close to 15 years ago actually, just after my wife and I were married, and we kind of had our first place near Soho and near the temple in London. One of the resident devotees, lady, she had moved in and was living in the ashram for a little while. And she was kind of, even though she was senior in age, in fact I think she was actually a grandmother at that time, but still her mother was alive, and her mother was having serious concerns about her living in the ashram. And so I guess it doesn't matter what age you are, your mother's always going to worry if you move into the temple. So somehow or other we decided we sent out an invitation to her and to this young lady and her mom. And we said, why don't you come around to our place and we can have some lunch and just, she can spend time and maybe get to know devotees and, see how that works out. So she came over, and you could see she was a little tense at first, but somehow we were very lighthearted. And she came in and sat down, and we chatted for some time. I guess she was probably there for close to 2 hours. We had nice Western prasad, and we had this picture, kind of, and like we had a sofa, and then over on the far wall, like kind of where that picture is, we had a big picture of this pastime, or this lila. And so after about 2 hours, it was kind of time for us to say, goodbye. And we didn't really talk about, Hare Krishna, Krishna consciousness, and we were just kind of just having a nice, simple discussion, finding out about her. She was finding out about us, and talking about her daughter and different things. And all of a sudden, right before she was about to go, she said, I just want to say, and she looked up at that picture and she said, that picture is so beautiful. And she said, I've just been sitting here, listening and talking, and looking at this picture and just thinking, how beautiful that picture is. How beautiful that is. And then she kind of inquired about this pastime. And so we explained a little bit about the picture, and that this was Krishna, and this was the gopis, and he has these pastimes in Vrindavan on the boat, and she was just like, tears were forming up in her eyes, and she said, this is just so beautiful. Now, she wasn't a devotee at all, but after that she left, and when she left, I think she said to Jaga something like, why can't you be normal like those people? And then she kept talking about that picture. So we actually got a framed copy of that picture, and we sent it to her as a gift, and she kept it in her house. And she later went on to give full blessings to her daughter, and she used to knit hats and scarves for Srila Prabhupada in the temple. So I was just thinking, as soon as I was searching for pictures of the boat Leela, and I saw this one, I was immediately reminded of the potency of not just hearing the pastime, but just the pictures that Srila Prabhupada so painstakingly encouraged and inspired so many devotees to paint these beautiful, beautiful pictures, and how indebted we are to these artists. Because Srila Prabhupada explained that these pictures are like windows into the spiritual world. So when we look at this picture, we get to see what Krishna is doing in the spiritual world, and it's so potent and so powerful. I know for me, the thing that convinced me to take a book, at a rock concert with some guy trying to tell me to take a book, and I'm like, I am not here to read books. I'm here to party. And then he opened the book and showed that changing bodies picture in the book, and I grabbed the book out of his hand and I took it. So these pictures are so potent. So because of that, I've loaded this presentation with lots of pictures, because they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and I've only got 585 words today, so it's better that I show more pictures, so like that. So this is a beautiful picture of this boat Leela, or pastime, which is an eternal Leela of Krishna, and we'll discuss a little bit at the end. But I wanted to first discuss and look at some different places, because as I was thinking about this topic, I was thinking, actually, boats are pretty significant for us as Prabhupada Nugas, as Gaudiya Vaishnavas. There's constant discussion about boats, actually. There's so much connectivity. And of course, nothing less than this weekend being the 60th anniversary of Srila Prabhupada's arrival, touching down in Boston Harbor this weekend. So right now, I think the devotees in Boston are out in the harbor on a boat, so like that. And all of us are here on this boat, so together. So this verse from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Samshrutaye parapavla plavam mahattaram punya yasho marare bhavam burir vatsa param 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 yad vipiram natesham. So there's lots of param 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 there, vipiram. So this translation is, for those who have accepted the boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, who is the shelter of the cosmic manifestation and is famous as Murari, the enemy of the Mura demon. The ocean of the material world is like the water contained in a calf's hoofprint. Their goal is Padam Padam, Vaikunta, the place where there are no material miseries, not the place where there is danger at every step. And living here in New York, anyone knows that there is definitely danger at every step, mainly because people don't clean up after their dogs. So every moment you have to be watching the sidewalk and where you're going to be careful. But the material world at any moment can draw us in and take us far, far away, like a wild current in the ocean can just take us adrift off course like that. But Krishna, his lotus feet are considered like a boat, which is the shelter for everyone, so like that. And his shelter can make this material ocean. What is the Sanskrit term for the material ocean? Bhavam? Bhavam Umbudi, yeah. Huh? Bhavasagar, yes, that's the one I was thinking of, but yeah. So either way, this material ocean, we can cross over it because it becomes just the size of a calf's hoof print. So we can only imagine how the mercy of the Lord that he can shrink this entire material ocean to the size of a calf's hoof print. So another one from the 4th canto, the Pastimes of Prithvi Maharaj. Would someone else like to read? I'd like to get other people involved. Maybe since you have the mic, you can read. You ever know?
The ocean of nations is very difficult to cross because it is infested with so many dangerous sharks. Although those who are non-devotees undergo severe austerities and penances to cross that ocean, we recommend that you simply take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, which are like boats for crossing the ocean. Although the ocean is difficult to cross, by taking shelter of his lotus feet, you will overcome all dangers.
Yeah, so once again, we see the material world. This time adding an extra dimension that the material ocean is filled with many sharks. Yeah, so there are many people, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to say that this world is a world of cheaters and the cheated. So everyone here is trying to cheat often in some way or another. We're trying to get out of something, and we're either being cheated by someone in the material world, or we're trying to cheat somehow someone in the material world. So like that, I thought it was interesting. Here it says, although those who are non-devotees undergo severe austerities and penances to cross the ocean, we recommend. So that means the devotees, they don't actually perform austerities and penances. Right? Who would agree with that? No austerity or penance for the devotees? Yes? Oh, everyone disagrees? Okay. So, right? No austerities and penance? I think everyone's confused. They're like, why are you asking me? We just came to listen to you. So everyone is having, because it's meant to be susukam kartam abhyayam, right? It's not meant to be like some severe austerity or penance, some teeth gritting, sitting in a ring of fire in the blazing hot sun. But sometimes it definitely can feel like that. People have experienced that devotional service can be, we often use this term. What is the term we use for devotional service sometimes? It's very purifying.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone's used that term before? I'm getting purified, Prabhu. Purified. It's very purifying at the moment, so like that. But actually, compared to the suffering, and also one thing is, as we become devotees, we often forget how difficult material life actually was before, how much we really struggled. So another reference here, someone would like to read? Bhakti Devi, would you like to read?
The human body, which can immortal and free in life, is automatically obtained by the laws of nature, although it is a very rare achievement. This human body can be compared to a perfectly constructed boat, having the spiritual master as the captain and the instructions of the personality of Godhead as favorable winds impelling it on its course. Considering all these advantages, a human being who does not utilize his human life to cross the ocean of material existence must be considered the killer of its own soul.
Wow. Again, very powerful statement from Bhagavatam, using this term boat. And here we see that our body is compared to a boat. So this body, this human body, is the vessel by which we can cross over the material ocean. So, and how do we do that? With the help of a good captain. So we have to have spiritual master, we have to have guidance, we have to have someone who is in the, what do they call it, the crow's nest, or what do they call that, where the captain, that's in the old days, I guess. But, sitting somewhere where he's able to look out and know where we're going and help to direct things. If the captain is downstairs rowing, you're in trouble, right? That someone's not watching where we're going. So, and then the favorable winds, we often hear is the Vedas, the teachings of the Vedas. But here it says the instructions of the personality of Godhead are the favorable winds impelling it on its course. So then we stay within the lineage of Dharma, of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. And so we have to utilize, Prabhupada said, we have to make the best of a bad bargain. So the human body is also, we often hear it's like a very difficult thing to deal with, having a body. But here we see that the body is actually the vessel by which we can make progress, the human body. So like that. So the body is compared to a boat. So as we speak about these things, especially speaking about having a good captain, this reminded me. I remember I used to hear devotees say when I first joined that ISKCON is like a boat. Yeah? So ISKCON is a boat. You get on the boat of ISKCON and then you can cross the material ocean. And Prabhupada is the captain of the boat and he's going along throwing over these lifesavers and dropping down these little dinghies, and devotees are going out and collecting all the souls that are drowning in the material world and pulling them onto the boat so that we can cross over the ocean of nescience by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. So just thought also to touch upon another thing that we know also Srila Prabhupada this weekend being his arrival into America aboard the Jaladuta and leaving his home in Vrindavan and coming all the way here. We've heard a few classes this week on it, so I don't want to go into it too much, but just to touch upon the fact that Srila Prabhupada also boarded a boat and crossed the ocean. Now, for most of us, like if I think about flying to India, of course I haven't flown to India from here. How many hours? It must take like 15 hours or something. So about 15 hours in a plane, to get to India. That's quite a long time. I know devotees who travel to Australia and it's like 22 hours or more hours to get there. And I think, just being in a plane for 15 hours is like a long time to be cooped up in one place. But can you imagine being on a boat for how many days was it?
38.
38 days. 38 24-hour days on a boat crossing the ocean. I mean, and it wasn't like, some people go for cruises and usually they're like 7 days, 14 days, something in between. But like 38 days being on a boat at sea, and the boat is not even meant for like passengers. It's a cargo boat. They have crew and staff on the boat, but it's not really meant for the comfort of someone. And what to speak of being, the ripe old age of 69. Probably there's, only a few of us here who are over the age of 60. And we even being cramped in a car for 4 hours to go somewhere is too much, What to speak of intense journey on the ocean, so many things. So it was such intense austerity. And when I meditate on Srila Prabhupada, I think, he must have come to accept that clearly I may die on this trip. I may not actually make it to the other side. I'm an elderly person. I'm getting on a boat that's not even meant for human passage. And I'm going to a place where I don't know anyone. And I basically don't have any money. How many of us even think that we would travel if you don't have money, you don't know someone on the other side, or you haven't made so many arrangements, you booked the hotel, you booked the car, you booked this, you booked everything. Everything is all mapped out. Prabhupada had no idea what he was going into. In fact, Sumati Maharaj said that they don't, they only eat meat there. And it's so cold. What's going to happen to you? You're going to die, old man. If you watch the videos, she's like, I told him, you're going to die, old man. What are you doing? And she refused to give him passage the first couple of times, and he kept begging. And all of this, why would you do that? I mean, why would anyone, you could say in their right mind, why would they do that? For what purpose? I mean, people would do that if they were coming here to make money. Yes? People would do almost anything to make money, It's like, I'm going to meet someone and we're going to do this, start this business and we're going to, but what other reason? Maybe if you had, maybe if he had like was sending love letters to someone on the other side of the ocean, people would also cross the ocean maybe for love. But Prabhupada didn't have these materialistic reasons. He simply crossed the ocean based on the order of his spiritual master that was given to him when he was, 24 years old. It was in 1922, right? So he was born in 96, so about 26 years old. And yet to preach the message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the English language to the people of the West. And based on this instruction, Srila Prabhupada boarded this boat. And I just keep thinking, he must have known I could die. I could leave my body at any moment. But he did it anyway. I found this picture. This is actually often we don't see real pictures. This is the Jaladuta ship that Srila Prabhupada was on, a big ship. And we know, of course, that Prabhupada went through so much in this journey. So I found some really nice pictures. Prabhupada's Leela here, his journey on the boat. And just after boarding the boat, it was Janmashtami. He cooked for the crew. He celebrated Janmashtami on the boat. Then he celebrated his birthday on the boat. And then Srila Prabhupada faced so many different challenges on the boat, having 2 heart attacks. And if you look, and I really encourage anyone who can get a copy of the Jaladuta Diary, this book that they printed, Prabhupada's diary when he traveled. And you see, and I think Marge and someone else was mentioning the other day, for a couple of days you just see this squiggly line in the diary. Because it was Prabhupada actually was having the heart attack. He wasn't able to write. I mean, it's such an intense thing. If any of us were to have a heart attack, we'd want to be immediately raced to the hospital to be seen to. But there was no one there for Srila Prabhupada. He was all alone. I think, not that you want to come in? So Srila Prabhupada faced so many challenges, and then he had that dream where Krishna was himself personally rowing the boat and saying that he was going to take care of him, he was going to do his work for him, and all the different avatars were on the boat. And of course, Srila Prabhupada I don't think it was on, no, they were boarded onto the Jaladuta, the Srimad Bhagavatams, but Prabhupada was carrying this precious cargo, this most precious cargo. In fact, it was only once Prabhupada finished the first canto that he felt like, now I'm ready. Now I can go. Now I have something substantial to offer. And it took him so long to do that, so much effort. When we hear about it, the moment I'm listening to the Leela Amrita, by the mercy of Mahaprabhu, listening to the Leela Amrita, and just hearing the intense pastimes that Prabhupada went through before, just to try to print the books, what he was going through. Begging, literally begging, traveling on the train at such an advanced age, such intense hardship. But he had the Bhagavatams, this precious cargo. And he felt like with these, how many sets was it? Like 100 sets, 300 books, something like that. How many sets? I think it was 100. I thought it was 100. Anyone knows how many? I always thought it was 100 sets. So it would have been like quite a lot of cargo. So he had these sets of the Bhagavatams, and just feeling like he has something to offer the people of the West. And then, of course, arriving at Boston Harbor and writing the famous Markandeya Bhagavat Dharma poem, which again I encourage anyone and everyone to read if you don't get a chance today, tomorrow, but just to go through that and really see the humility. And Prabhupada, certain words always stand out to me, like, I have no idea why you have brought me here. Just petitioning the Lord, why have you brought me here? Why am I even here? Why did I get on the boat? He's coming into Boston Harbor, seeing the skyscrapers, and you just overwhelmed thinking, what am I doing here? Recognizing that people here probably aren't even going to be able to understand my accent. What to speak of. They're so enamored by the modes of material nature, how would they understand anything that I'm trying to say? And then petitioning the Lord, Jai Shishivadadadar Ki Jai Lord Chandra Bhagavan Ki Jai. Then petitioning the Lord to, by your mercy, they'll be able to understand it. And then, of course, the famous ending of that beautiful poem, where Srila Prabhupada says, make me dance, make me dance, make me dance, my Lord, make me dance as you like. So, just offering himself up, whenever I hear that, I just think of Draupadi, who just had to finally throw both arms up into the air and just be completely surrendered. Whatever you want, Krishna, just move me however you like. We would think that the pure devotee, the Senapati Bhakta, sent by Krishna to the material world to deliver the fallen conditioned souls, you think it would be a little bit easier for him. You think the journey should have been like, everything's smooth, everything's great, angels singing, And instead it was like challenge after challenge after challenge, test after test after test. But that was all just to show Srila Prabhupada's greatness, because he never gave up. No matter how many times he wrote to people and they said no, no matter how many times things didn't work out or fell apart, he just kept going. He was relentless to fulfill the order of his spiritual master. So Srila Prabhupada just so great. And by his mercy, here we are with the ability to read the Srimad Bhagavatam now in its totality, as well as so many other books that Srila Prabhupada took the time to translate. So, by Srila Prabhupada's mercy, we were able to access any of Krishna's pastimes and leelas. Many devotees didn't even know who Krishna was. I know when I first got a copy of Krishna book, the way it's spelled on the front is in Sanskrit, K-R-S-N-A. And I remember I used to look at it and think, somebody didn't know how to spell. What is this? Because I remember they said this was about Krishna, but I had no idea who or what Krishna was. But it said Krishna. I was like, there's too many syllables. Where are the vowels? We need some vowels in this. Just trying to read. And it's like, so people didn't even know who Krishna was. And here, but I remember actually, this was the picture that was on the front of the Krishna book that I had. And this picture of Krishna and the Astasakis. And I used to think, I have no idea what this is, but thinking similar to that young lady's mother, but this is so beautiful. And I couldn't tell, I reckoned that the guy in blue, the blue guy, was he must be the special one, but I wasn't sure if it was a guy or a girl, actually, because, Krishna's got long hair, but I wasn't even completely sure what the picture was, but somehow it was so attractive to the heart. Somehow it was so alluring. I used to look at the picture and just think, wow, this is amazing. What is this? But somehow when I would try to read the book, I felt like I didn't really have access. I couldn't get right into it. Somehow it just didn't open up for me. So those of you who are brought up with Krishna consciousness, it's very, very special. I remember seeing some video on someone shared, there's a movie about this boy that's trapped on this boat at sea, the Tao of something or something. What is it? The Life of Pi, thank you, not the Tao, but the Life of Pi, yeah. The Life of Pi. And in the beginning of that, someone sent a clip from that movie where the mother is talking to him about the pastime of Krishna eating the clay, and then she looks in the mouth and sees all these things. And I was thinking, yeah, to be brought up in a culture where you're hearing Krishna's pastimes all the time is so special. But for us, it's like, what is it? But Prabhupada came and he called it the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, and devotees said, Prabhupada, shouldn't we call it the International Society for God Consciousness? That might be a little bit more accessible for people. But Srila Prabhupada said, no. It is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So we have a clear name for God, and that clear name is Krishna. So it's by Srila Prabhupada's, by the mercy of the captain, by the mercy of the captain of the boat, we have access to Krishna's Leelas. And by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we have access to the previous acharyas. And we have access to their renditions of different Leelas. So there is one pastime of the boat Leela of Krishna, which is told by Srila Jiva Goswami, who is one of these 6 Goswamis. And in that pastime, of course, when you get into some of the more, I guess you could say, esoteric pastimes of Krishna, then Krishna is often dressing up. Yeah, he's actually into dressing up. He's into, I don't know what you would call it, someone who likes to dress up. It's like, not masquerade, but he's into dressing up and trying to fool his devotees, especially the gopis. Anyone knows what are some of the different pastimes where Krishna dresses up? He comes as a... Can't hear you?
He dresses up as Abhimanyu.
Yeah, he disguises himself as Abhimanyu, yeah, that's for sure, yeah. Who is the husband of Srimati Radharani, yes, so he disguises himself as Abhimanyu. In Govardhan, there's the Dhankeli Leela. So Krishna dresses up like a tax collector or a toll man. He like sets up a, and Krishna's always playing. This is the thing about Krishna. He likes to play. But actually, I find that in myself sometimes don't like to play. I like to be too serious, And Krishna, he just likes to play. So he's kidding around, and we're like, no, I want it to be like this, it should be like that, right? So it can be like the material energy. Sometimes we think it should be like this, but Krishna, he's just a young cowherd boy. He really likes to play. He likes to keep things exciting. It's like a small child. They're just playing, but we're like, no, you have to be quiet. We're sitting in Bhagavatam class, But he's like, whatever. He's seeing like Tweety birds around doing all kinds of things. So Krishna likes to play, so he plays the tax collector, and him and the cowherd boys, they stop the gopis and convince them that they have to give some, toll. They have to pay a toll or a tax to cross over Govardhan Hill, and otherwise they don't get to cross. And then they have this rasa, that they have this exchange where it's like, we're not paying you, and he plays. Sometimes he dresses with a big mustache and tries to hide himself. So in this boat Leela, Krishna also disguises himself as a boatman. And this is at Manasi Ganga. How many people have been to Manasi Ganga? Here's Ben. Okay, yes, on the bank of Govardhan Hill. And it's described that actually in that time, Manasi Ganga was huge. It was massive. Anyone remembers how big Manasi Ganga was then? Jiva Goswami says it was 8 miles wide. Exactly. 8 miles wide. But at that same time, how high was Giriraj? Was it like 8 yojanas or something like that? Massive. It was also miles high. Everything was so big. So in order for the gopis to get to Govardhan, back to Vrindavan, they needed to get a boat. And it was getting late, and they were at Govardhan, and they were collecting milk, because actually the best grass in Vrindavan is, not at one of the corner shops here, the best grass is actually on Govardhan Hill. Govardhan Hill. So actually the cows who graze on Govardhan Hill, because in the Damodar Leela, the Acharyas also described that Mother Yashoda went specifically to milk the cows in Govardhan to get the best milk. because she wanted to stop Krishna from stealing the milk, stealing butter from all the other gopis. So she thought, I'm going to make the best butter to satisfy Krishna. So she went to Govardhan to milk the cows. So the gopis had been there, milked the cows, made these milk sweets, and they were trying to head back to Vrindavan. But it was getting very late, and they had a long journey, so they decided that they needed to take a boat across the Manasi Ganga. And of course, right on time, there was the perfect boat with the perfect boatman. And that perfect boatman was none other than Krishna. And he was dressed up in full disguise. And so they apparently didn't recognize Krishna. And Krishna said that he would happily take them across the Manasi Ganga, but he said there will have to be a toll, a tax. And he said, first you're going to have to give me some of these delicious sweets that you have made. So they were carrying these like pots full of different sweets. So it's described Krishna then started eating some of these sweets and enjoying, relishing these sweets. And the gopis are like, how many sweets are you going to eat? Come on, we need to get the sweets back to Vrindavan. So then Krishna eventually said, okay, we can all get on the boat. So they got on the boat and he started paddling across. And then after some time he was paddling and he said, oh, I'm so tired, I've run out of energy. So he stopped paddling and they're like, we need to go. You promised us you would take us across the Manasi Ganga. Please take us. And he said, no, I think I've run out of energy. I need some more sweets. So Krishna said, I have to have some more. So they reluctantly gave him some more sweets and Krishna was eating these sweets. And then they said, come on, boatman, you promised to take us, so let's go. So then Krishna started paddling again, the boat, and the gopis are singing, and Krishna's paddling. And then he stops again. And the gopis are like, what is wrong now, boatman? And he says, oh, the boat is too heavy. I think it's going to sink. We have to get some of the weight. There's too much weight on the boat. We have to move some stuff off the boat. And they're like, well, what do you want us to? And he said, first, get rid of the sweets. Get rid of the rest of the sweets. So he had to throw the sweets over. And then he said, oh, it's not enough. All these jewels that you're wearing, all of these necklaces and earrings, and, back in those days, they were even the cowherd damsels, they all were wearing gold. It was so opulent. And Krishna said, all of it, over the side of the boat. And they were like, what? Are you serious? And he's like, otherwise we're going to sink. And so the gopis reluctantly took out their jewels, took off their bangles, took off their necklaces, and all of it, they threw over the side of the boat. And then they were like, now can we go? And Krishna said, it's still too heavy. And he said, well, what else is there? He said, maybe you should take off your saris and throw them over. And they said, hey, boatman, you better row this boat or we're going to throw you over the side of the boat. So then Krishna said, okay. So he started rowing the boat. And he rowed for some time. And then it started to get dark. Clouds were coming over. And it started to rain. And lightning and thunder. And the gopis became so frightened, and they're like, oh my goodness, what is going to happen here? What are we supposed to do? Please, Mr. Boatman, get us across. And he's like, oh no, we're not going to make it before the storm. And they were all frightened, and the waves started to rock. And the waves started to rock, kind of like in this picture, actually. You can see the waves are rough. And they were all like being thrown to and fro. And they were grabbing onto the side of the boat and grabbing onto each other. And Srimati Radharani was tossed, and all of a sudden she was lunged towards the boatman. And she grabbed hold of the boatman for protection because she was afraid she was going to fall over the boat. And as soon as she grabbed the hold of Krishna, she immediately knew, this is no boatman. This is Krishna. And she could tell because whenever Srimati Radharani would come in contact with Krishna, she would also feel great ecstasy. And she knew immediately that this is Krishna. And then all of a sudden, she became very calm and, went a little bit into mama, hands on hips, even in the middle of the storm. And she began smiling, and all the other gopis were like, Shrimati Radharani, what's happened? Why have you changed your mood? And then she pulled Krishna's flute out of his belt and held it up, and they were all like, Krishna! Why did you do this to us? And immediately they all started laughing, and then the clouds parted, and the kind of evening time sunset was there again, and Krishna, they were all laughing, and Krishna had been unveiled in his disguise, and then they started traveling across the Manasi Ganga on this boat. Of course, if you go to Manasi Ganga, there is that boat that's still in the middle of the Manasi Ganga now. It has like a hole in it with water spurting out of it like that. So like this, so then the gopis with Krishna, they passed over and performed their leelas and pastimes, began chanting and engaging in their loving pastimes there on the boat and the boat leela. So this is a pastime that Srila Jiva Goswami gives us, and we see here many different renditions from different devotees and wonderful artists who have given different pastimes. This one I thought was best because you can see the swans, the hamsas here in this picture. And if you notice in the outfit today that their lordships, also the outfit that they're wearing has these beautiful swans painted on the pastime, on the outfit. So I thought we could finish, but there are many different lessons that we can learn from this pastime of Krishna on the boat with the gopis, and I thought I would open up to see if anyone can think of a different lesson that we could possibly learn in this pastime of the boat leela, even though it was short and concise in one sense, but there are actually many things that we can take away and get out of this for our own benefit in one sense in our journey, our spiritual journey. Anyone can think of anything from the pastime that might stand out? Yes, Adidev Prabhu.
He's a trickster.
Thank you. Beautiful, yes.
He loves to play tricks.
Loves to play.
Loves to keep things light. And he's also a protector. So there's two sides.
Beautiful, yeah. So Krishna is a trickster. He's a tricky guy. It's hard to understand what he's up to sometimes, right? But at the same time, he is our protector. He is also the boat. His lotus feet are the boat by which we can cross the material ocean. Yeah, beautiful. Anyone else? Anything else?
Shedding material attachments.
Okay, so Gaur Kumar Prabhu, you can maybe.
Yeah, so in this pastime we see that the gopis shed yogurt, butter, sweets, the jewelries and everything. So this symbolizes shedding material attachments to progress spiritually.
Yes, yes. And not just getting rid of them, because when you said that, when you put it that way, I was thinking, yeah, we probably need to go on a diet, we need to stop eating so many sweets, maybe give up butter and ghee. Yeah, we don't need material opulences. But they didn't just shed it, they shed it for Krishna's sake also, in one sense, yeah, because he asked them to, so like that, beautiful. So someone else raised their hand at the same time that Guru Kumar Prabhu did. Who was it? Yeah? Okay.
Yes.
Krishna died.
Yes, something similar, like shedding our attachments, especially in turbulences, so that things will be easily calmed down.
Say that again.
During the time of turbulence, so they were asked to give up the things that are dear to them.
Yes.
We often face turbulences, so giving up the attachments will sweeten and calm down things. And then we see the attachments also easiest and then much more close.
Yes.
First is sweets, next is ornaments, and the third is own self-respect.
Yes.
Which Krishna has to give up.
Yes.
So the tests become difficult and difficult.
Yeah, very nice. So sometimes it's like, it starts easy. I remember one devotee saying that, you know, we may say to Krishna, one for you, Krishna, one for me. 2 for you, Krishna, 4 for me. 3 for you, Krishna, 10 for me. And then we may be giving to Krishna, but sometimes behind our back, we're holding back. So one devotee describes so nicely how Krishna, he accepts what we offer, but at the same time, he's kind of looking over our shoulder like, but what about that? What about that? What about what you're holding on to there? You know, what about those things? And Krishna kind of really wants us to. And we can see it gets, you know, one senior devotee was asked once, how much of a donation should I give, Maharaj? How much should I give? And he said, you should give right up to the point where it starts to hurt. Right up to that point. And not a penny more. But, you know, which means that there also has to be that point where we don't, like Prabhupada would say, you have to know how to bend the devotees without breaking. So we also have to bend without breaking. But we give up, but Krishna is always just waiting for the next opportunity. A little more, and it gets closer. I really appreciated that. That's nice. Yeah, it gets closer and closer and closer. At first it's like, yeah, that's easy. I wanted to give that up anyway. But then when he grabs hold of something, you're like, wait. No, I'm not quite ready to let that go yet. You know, just holding on to that. And you nailed it down by saying one's kind of own dignity or self-respect. One's respect, which we know that the gopis are glorified because they gave that up even. That they were willing to leave their homes and go, you know, off with a young man into the forest in the middle of the night. So this whole thing meant that they gave up even their own self-respect, you could say, like that. Okay, anyone else? I thought someone else. Oh my goodness, Jai, you're here.
Popping up.
I thought I heard your laugh earlier and I was like, well, where is she?
There were two things that I was thinking about. One is that Krishna gets tired and he acts like he's going to go to sleep, but he's never asleep. He always sees, he never goes to sleep. And then the other thing I thought of is their attitude after it's all over. Ha ha ha, they let it go.
Yeah.
As opposed to we, when our boat of life has been rocked, we get angry. And Krishna's like, oh, no, they let it go. And they see, oh, it was you all the time, and this is part of the play, and that's really delightful. They just kind of let it go, and we tend to like shake our fists and let it bring us into a dark mood. So I really appreciated that.
Yeah, we can carry it around for years, maybe even lifetimes, right? Whatever it was. Yeah, very nice. Yeah, so the mood afterwards is yeah, which is another point, which is that we have to try to see Krishna's hand in the situation, that Krishna is maybe just having a little fun with us. But, you know, because we're a little attached and maybe a little serious, then we don't really feel like it's so fun, you know. Which is interesting, in life that happens. Sometimes people see something as funny and we think, that's not very funny. Right? Anyone's ever had that kind of situation? People are maybe having a laugh at you or at your expense, and you're like, that's not funny. But if we were able to step back, we might laugh at the same thing in someone else. But because it's hitting us, then we feel like, you know, all of this ego stuff just makes it so difficult. Someone else? I thought I saw another hand. Yes?
So I was thinking about Krishna in terms of the boat captain, just like earlier when you spoke of the spiritual masters being the captain of the ship. So Krishna's the boatman in this pastime, and he's also kind of orchestrating some of these other events, like the waves coming and rocking the boat, and you know the weather changing a little bit. And so maybe a reflection for us would be if we are in the boat with Krishna and kind of recognizing him. Like there's that point where Radharani pulls out the flute and says, like, it's you, Krishna. So maybe when we are going through seemingly difficult times, we can like find Krishna in that moment and see what lessons we're supposed to learn from those instances.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, it's not always so easy. But sometimes you know in your heart, this just couldn't happen without Krishna's sanction. Like, why did this go on? How could this have manifested? You know? I remember once we came home from a program, and I'll finish with this, but you just reminded me somehow, and we had been at a program, and it was such an amazing program. It was right before we left from the UK. And we got home, and our apartment had been burgled. Like, literally flipped upside down. And we got to the door, and it was like, there were lights on, and my wife was like, you know, hey, Grandpa, did you leave the lights on again? It's like, no, Grandma, I didn't. And it's like, okay. And then the door was open, and actually it was locked. We unlocked it and went in, and everything was just upside down, literally. The only thing that wasn't upside down was the altar. The deities were still in their place. Drawers, empty, papers everywhere, footprints, muddy footprints from where they had been walking through. Literally, they turned the place upside down. And it was traumatic actually, because your safe space, your place was just like, invaded. It's like, where do you go to be safe? You go home, and if you go home and someone has found a way to infiltrate that and just uproot it, and then you don't know, are they going to come back, and when are they going to come back, if they're going to come back, and what's going to happen, and not to mention all the stuff with having to deal with broken glass everywhere, and calling the police. But somehow it's like we were just like, immediately we were like, Krishna, why did you do this? It's like, okay, Krishna, where's Krishna? Where's the flute in this? Of course the deities are still on the altar. And we just realized that Krishna was determined to get us out of the UK. It was like, you are not going to have a safe, even enough space for a pen to go in, to feel shelter here. Move now. So it was just like, we just try to see Krishna's hand. But it's not so easy, because sometimes it really is like traumatic situations. And if you look, Krishna's dearest devotees, they all seem to go through extremely traumatic situations. Somehow they're able to see Krishna and remember Krishna in those times. So thank you very much for that. Okay, so the conch will probably blow quite soon. Thank you all for your input and feedback on this. And I just thought that as we go upstairs at 12:45, and maybe just to give a little explanation what's going to happen. So the RT will go on. The RT itself will finish, which finishes around 12:45. And then we will have probably a brief intermission. And then we'll have a kirtan, and we'll all go up to the rooftop, where you will enter into Vrindavan, and you'll see Manasi Ganga. and in the distance you'll see other landmarks, transcendental landmarks. And then their lordships will perform their boat lila upstairs with some kirtan, like that. So we'll do that. But we can also have our meditation, so we thought this would be a nice meditation for us to have. So we can all read this together. O beloved Krishna, the eternal boatman of our hearts, we bow before you, seeking your playful presence in our lives. May we, like the gopis, offer everything we have to you, finding joy and fulfillment in our devotion to your divine form. O Lord, reveal yourself to us in the midst of our daily struggles, so that we can recognize your hand in all that we do. May we embrace the play of life as you guide us across the waters of existence. And may our hearts remain forever united with you in love and devotion. Nice little prayer. Okay, so that concludes the talk. If anyone has any reflections or anything else, we're going to be a few minutes, Prabhu, or two. Okay. Anyone else? Anything? Shruti Devi, anything you would like to add?
No, I just really liked the reflections. I was just saying that I really liked the reflection about Krishna as the boatman. I feel like we don't always recognize when Krishna is in our life, and it's so easy to say, like, when you have a moment of trauma or even good moments, right? Like joyful moments. So just taking that time to reflect that Krishna, that strength is there for us. We just have to be willing to.
Yeah, just think back to the beginning of the talk. When Srila Prabhupada went through crossing the ocean to come here, that's just that small section of time, 38 days on the boat, what he went through in just that short amount of time. I mean, you could really become quite upset with God. It's like, I'm trying to do this for you. I don't have any other motivation. And still you give me not only one heart attack, but 2 heart attacks. I mean, we could easily just become quite disgruntled with the whole thing. Or think, maybe Krishna in this wants me to go back. Maybe I'm not meant to be on the boat. I mean, you could extrapolate in so many different ways, But somehow, thank you, trying to see Krishna's hand there and really fighting to see Krishna's hand. Did you want to share something? Anyone else? Any last thoughts? Yes. Question.
That prayer at the end, where's that from?
So this, So this was at the end of the pastime. I think I got it from ISKCON Desire Tree, something like that. Okay, so we can all stand for the arti.
His Grace Jai Nitai Prabhu ki
Jai! Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki Jai!
Radha Murlidhar ki
Jai!
Gaurchandra ki
Jai!
Hare
Bhaktivedanta Srila Prabhupada Jai Om Vishnu Pada Paramansa Sarvachakra Shri Shriman Shriman Krishna Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Ki Jai Nandi Koti Vaishnava Ki Jai Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prince Ghosh Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhakti Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai, Tur Dham Ki Jai, Navadvip Dham Ki Jai, Mayapur Dham Ki Jai, Gopur Dham. All glories to Sri Guru, all glories to Sri Guru, all glories to Sri Guru, all glories to Sri Guru. Namaste Narasingaya. Namaste Narasingaya.
Thank you, Adidev Prabhu. Adidev Prabhu Ki Jai. Leading us through the kirtan in the prayers. Thank you all for coming on this special day, the Boat Festival, special Bhagavat Sravana. We will, this sort of brings to an end a whole month of festival activity in New York. 27 we're doing one festival after the next. It's very busy in August. It was a wonderful summer. Thank all of you for being a part of it. The next festival is not so far away, even though the festival season is over. Kartik begins on October 6th, a little early this year, I think. But we'll be celebrating here with a festival, installation of Gaur Chandra, so that coincides. So for any information, you can go to the website, bhakticenter.org. If you want to get on the WhatsApp list, or if you are not on the email list, whatever you want to do, you can see Jai Nitai or Bhagavat Bhakti, and they will put you where you want to be. Okay? So, what am I missing? Okay. Yeah. If anybody can volunteer, we could use some help serving prasadam after the boat festival, the roof. Yeah, thank you. Great. Yeah, and cleaning up as well. Thank you. So we need help serving out and then clean up afterwards. So please, if you can help out with that. I also want to thank one more time His Grace Jai Nitai Prabhu Ki. Wonderful class that really set us up, putting us in the spirit of what's to come upstairs, explaining many boat pastimes with the Lord, and setting the stage for us to take Chota Radhamurli now. We'll do kirtan and head upstairs where the boat festival will take place. And if it's anything like last year, everyone will have a chance to. Yeah. Okay. Everyone will have a chance to assist Shri Shri Radhamurli in that pastime. So it should be a nice afternoon. The weather is good for it. We'll be up on the roof. So thank you very much. And you want to say some things?
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you for coming. It's a very wonderful occasion today to participate, not only hear about Radhamurli Dar's pastime, but actually participate in them. It's a very sweet meditation. You can really enter into the mood of Vrindavan and leave material identities behind and come as the servant of the servant of the servant of Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. So what we'll be doing is very simple. Everybody can come forward on the roof. Everybody can sit down, and we have kirtan, and we can make a line where the devotees can come forward. Similar like the Julan Yatra. I hope most of you have seen. We come from the left side of the roof, from where I'm pointing, to make a line this way, and then everyone can come forward, and you can offer a flower, and in the gentlest of ways, I repeat, in the gentlest of ways, push the boat forward. We always want children to participate, but for this it's a little delicate. We don't want the boat to, well, maybe part of the pastime. That may also happen. So yeah, Krishna likes to play, so we'll see what happens. But let's be very gentle. The idea of this is actually, festival is done in the summer, mostly in Vrindavan. So we were a little late in the summer, but by Krishna's grace, it's still a very hot day. So it's, who doesn't want to be in the water, on a boat, on a hot day? So this is what Krishna is doing today. So we can all participate in giving him that pleasure of the boat ride, feeling the breeze, being in the cool water, and having his divine sports. So yeah, you can all come forward. Then when the boat comes, we have a few pujaris on this side who will be pushing the boat around in a circle. So when the boat comes to you, you'll be standing kind of in the middle of the pond, right in front of it, and you can gently push it along like that, very gently. So we can start kirtan, and then we can in procession take the deities up. Hare Krishna.